soon as I push this, the video play?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
You know, music is a catalyst for change, for conversation. It starts conversation. When you start conversation, you start change.
Where'd you come from?
DC. Chicago. Shot down.
I'ma go in again if you hold this thing, Mr. Light Skin.
It takes a long time for overnight success.
Check out their latest release, Ego Death.
Shout out to Rhapsody, one of the best rappers in the game.
Do you mind if I introduce myself? Is this for real?
You know, you find this freedom, and everything just falls into place like it's supposed to. But you know, you gotta trust and just let go and follow where the music takes you.
All right. So I'm Cicely Mitchell, and that is footage, most of the footage is from this year's festival, and I have never been called a magician, but I will say it's one of those things just like Rhapsody said, and the guy, Anthony Frazier, who was up there with her during our conference, it takes a long time to be an overnight success. This month, we're 5 years old. Yay! Woo! And if you would have asked me maybe 7 years ago when I was graduating at UNC that I would be leading something like this that had nothing to do with statistics or mathematics or anything like that, like you said, you're gonna meet a trumpeter and you're going to, start this crazy movement that, jazz is not for old people. Jazz is still living, breathing, maybe hidden underground, but I would have said you're crazy. Only because that's my thing. Like I spent a long time studying biostatistics at UNC Chapel Hill. But one thing, like she said, it's one of those things, like the music takes over, life takes over, and you just roll with it. So we're rolling with it today, and I thank y'all for coming out. I'm kind of like overwhelmed a little bit, only because we plan things like this for artists to be in packed rooms, and so for people to want to hear about the story and the magic behind Art of Cool and come hear me speak about it is very overwhelming. So you have to bear with me. But I called it Magic in the Making, only because the way me and Al met was crazy. And then how Art of Cool just became this thing where there's Anderson .Paak right there in the Armory, addressing people, maybe 900 people. And this was, before Anderson .Paak opened for Beyonce and, before Anderson .Paak hit the hopscotch stage. He was right there in the little Armory in Durham. And so I'm very humbled. But Art of Cool is a jazz presenting nonprofit, and our whole mission is totally different from most, jazz nonprofits, which are preservation of jazz. Ours is about the expansion of the audience so that this music can live on. So we present jazz and Black American music in what we call the popular music way. So we're not your average jazz presenter, and there'll be some purists that'll be like, okay, that's not jazz. But what we try to do is we try to give you the full spectrum of Black American music, whether it is someone that is very soulful but works with jazz artists and hip hop artists like an Anderson .Paak, or a Derek Hodge, who is a jazz bassist but happens to produce for Maxwell and Robert Glasper and that sort of thing. So magic in the making. So I talked a little bit about Art of Cool. A lot of people don't realize we are a nonprofit. Like, we don't have, we're not a for-profit entity. Our whole mission is just to make sure that people know that this music is living on. So we do that two ways. We do that through the Art of Cool Festival, which is more about arts participation and access, and just, going to jazz concerts. And then we also do that through Start of Cool, which is, Al's project, and that is jazz education summer camps. And so for the past 3 years, we've been honing his curriculum in Durham at Global Scholars Academy, and then we'll talk later about what we'll be doing in Raleigh next year. And so within our festival, we also do a conference called Innovate Your Cool. And this is conversations around whether it's jazz or the process of jazz, entrepreneurship, design, technology. And so this is Art of Cool really trying to hit the fringes of people who may be interested in improvisation or a music that's like jazz. But how did all of this get started? All right, so that's me, and that's Al. And so one thing that I definitely want to say is this was two people who probably would have never met without the internet. Coming to, yes, side note, we met on Match.com. Can you believe that? So what happened was, so a chance meeting on the interwebs, and I started coming out to some of the jazz events. And I had no clue. I was in grad school at the time. I had no clue that there were jazz musicians that were making a living. When you think about jazz, and when I was thinking about jazz at the time, it's like, that's for old people. Most people, if you show of hands, it's like, oh yeah, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Nina Simone, all people who are not, still with us. So that's what I thought. And so then I started, hanging out with Al and seeing that, Central had a very rich jazz studies program. And then he was like, yeah, and so, Branford Marsalis. And I'm like, oh, Branford? You either know Winton or you know Branford. And then you try to act like you know about jazz. So he was like, yeah, Branford is artist in residence at Central. And I'm like, I thought he was in New Orleans. So that's when I started getting very intrigued about this music and looking and seeing that, a lot of people weren't coming out. Why aren't they coming out? So I was like, look, we're going to start a Facebook. We're going to start a Twitter account for you. I don't know if Instagram at the time was the thing, but I started social media for Al. So it all came out of the love for Al and trying to get more people out to hear Al Strong. And so what happened in 2012 was something really crazy. We were trying to actually get a gig at BU Cafe. Everyone know BU Cafe? Okay. And so that didn't happen. And so what we did was we decided we wanted to take over a space where it was all about the music. No real distraction. He wanted to let people know about his original arrangements, original tunes. I think a lot of people don't understand that some of the stuff that you hear from like Al and some of the other musicians, those are original compositions. Those aren't them playing the standards and that sort of thing. So he wanted to do more of that. So I started thinking about places that were non-traditional spaces. And so there was a place called Labor Love that was in the Golden Belt district of downtown Durham. So the first lesson was take your mojo to a non-traditional space. That's one part of the magic of Art of Cool. So I was like, oh, we're going to go into this art gallery. We're going to flip the art gallery and make it be a jazz concert. So just like how you're sitting right now is how we kind of commandeered the art gallery. And so at this time, we weren't Art of Cool. It was just Cicely and Al, coming in and doing a show for Al. And so this is actually a photo that's kind of tricked out by one of what I call our first Cooligans. Anybody who helps out and volunteers with Art of Cool is in the Cooligans. And that's Frank Myers. And Frank Myers, I would have to attribute, he's a photographer, but I would definitely have to attribute the whole Art of Cool to him seeing the fact that we were an organization when it was just me and Al. So Al and I came in, did this show. It sold out. It's like $10 a person, but it was, set up just like this, packed just like this. And the art gallery owner, we were just gonna do it one time. And the art gallery owner was like, hey, you should do this again. And then Frank was like, yes, I'm gonna take some money from the pictures done and we're gonna donate it to you guys. And I'm like, okay. We're not really an organization, but we'll do it again. And so I thought, it would be kind of boring if we just keep presenting Al at this art gallery. So the next month, we presented his friends, and then more of his friends, and then it just built out as this thing. Just like how Creative Mornings, is 4 years old, and it's just every month, that's what we were doing. We were doing every third Friday in downtown Durham, and that's because that's Art Walk. And then there were people from Raleigh who were like, we coming all the way over here to Durham. So I'm gonna need you to do this for First Friday in Raleigh. So this was like maybe 6 months in. And so I was just like, okay. So the Labor Love people knew the Flanders people. So Flanders back here. And so it was Marjorie Hodges and Kelly. And they convinced them to let us do the same thing over at Flanders. So now we're doing double duty. So at this point, I'm still a statistician. I'm working and I'm doing my dissertation and now we're putting on these shows. And so what was, once a month, now twice a month. So we're first Friday over here and then third Friday in Durham. And so that kept going for about a year and a half. And that's when Al jumped on the phone with Branford. And we asked, because our number one thing that we wanted to do was open a jazz club. And so we were testing that out. Is there a market for that? But along the way, he jumps on the phone with Branford, and he's like, Branford, why is there no jazz club? Because at the time, BU wasn't really the jazz club. It was really no jazz club. So, and he was like, there's no money in it. There's no money in it. And so it was like, really? Because, we're doing these pop-ups, and, people are coming out and they're paying. So we decided we'll make it a nonprofit, and that's what happened. So does anybody remember the Smoffice? The Smoffice, have you heard of the Smoffice? So in downtown Durham, there was a contest called the Smoffice. And so they were looking for the next big idea. I guess they were looking for the next Google or next whatever. And so the prize was you got an office space and you got access to marketing help and legal help. So by this time, we knew we were kind of in over our head. Like, we're putting this on and people think we're an organization. And so, we needed to file for our nonprofit status and all of that. So I was like, oh my God, we need to win the Smoffice so we can get all of this stuff because, we don't have a lot of money. So we did it. So lesson number 2, and I want one of my head Cooligans to raise his hand, Michael English. Raise your hand. Hey, Mike. So this is his little piece of magic. Well, you need to shoot your shots. So we went ahead and submitted for the Smoffice. Now, it's a long shot that a nonprofit would win something like the Smurfs, but I found out there were a lot of people who were in Downtown Durham Inc. with the Chamber, in the business community with Downtown Durham, and so you had to submit like your one big event, your one big idea. And so I was like, yeah, we'll do a festival. Let's do a festival. You know, at the time we didn't have any experience doing anything big. It was just these little pop-up concerts. I mean, I was in a sorority back in undergrad. We did little events, but we didn't do anything like, you know, a big festival. But what we didn't know, and this is kind of the magic and serendipity of timing, we didn't know that 21C was coming. We didn't know that Aloft and all of that was coming. We were like maybe 2 years in front of that. And so this festival, it fit right in. So again, I could have, you know, sat there and been like, oh my God, I have a day job. How in the world are we going to put on a festival? It's just like, hey, this is the time. You know, we're going to get out there. We didn't have the experience to do a festival. We're just like, oh, we're going to do a festival. And someone on the committee is going to be like, this is a great idea. So someone did. We did not win the Smurfs, but what we did was those people who didn't win the Smurfs, they got to be in the Startup Stampede. So we were in the final class of the Startup Stampede, and it was like a 60-day kind of Shark Tank thing. I think there's a Startup Stampede guy, you know, before us. You were there the first one?
2011.
Yeah, so we were 2013. We were like the last one. So it was 11 of us. Some people that you may know, Offline Media was in that particular class, and they were the darlings. But we were there, and they taught us, because we're a nonprofit, we didn't fit the mold. They wanted us to learn how to pitch and be able to get the corporate community involved on lifting this thing up, because this is about tourism. This is about an identity for Durham of cool, a diverse identity of cool. And so we did Startup Stampede. I don't know how I did Startup Stampede, because by this time I had a day job. So there was one particular time during the day you always had to be there. You had to be present and accountable. And thank God it was lunchtime. So literally I would take my lunches and be present and accountable. Now, I had other cooligans, and this is kind of, I don't have this lesson on here, but surround yourself with like-minded people that, for your vision, I mean, they're all in. And so I had friends like Joyce Spade of Virtue Events sitting at the desk during the day. It's like Art of Cool. Art of Cool is here and present. And so there were a lot of people who were invested in just making something like this cool happen. So we shot our shot, and someone said, this is a great idea, we'll fund it. And so that someone was Michael Goodman at American Tobacco. And so he saw the vision. He was one of the first early adopters of this festival. And this picture here is from the conference this year at American Underground. So from the very first year, you know, we were very blessed to have American Tobacco, American Underground support of Art of Cool Festival. So we got funded, we got to do a festival. So the first festival was in 2014. And along the way, we've been getting bigger, better. The first one, I'm still trying to capture the actual magic from the first one. First one was insane. We had 60, we didn't know what we didn't know. But we were big, big dreamers. And so we decided, hey, we got this funding. We're going to book, we're going to book everybody we want to hear. And we booked like fans that year. So, I mean, we had Cody Chestnut, and we put him on the lawn right in front of DPAC for free, And it was like, if thinking about that now, it's like, we did what? But it was that kind of experience where you could see Cody Chestnut in Durham, on the lawn, and it was, Black people, white people, old people, young people coming out to see this music. We had Revive Big Band, who is one of the dopest, current modern day big bands, they still exist, on that lawn. We had Amel LaRue, we had King before they were King, and Bilal, and our niche really is to find underground budding talent in the jazz world that is the next whoever. Like I said, we had the internet, which I don't know if people know what the internet is, but probably in a couple years you'll know the internet, just like Anderson .Paak. We picked Anderson .Paak, and I had to give it up to Mike and the millennials in our group for that great find of Anderson .Paak, because he actually was someone that it was last minute booking, and it was like, oh yeah, by the way, do you want Anderson .Paak? And I'm like, hey millennials, who is Anderson .Paak? But that's another one that's not on here, is we really have people around us that may not have a lot of experience, but they dream just as big as we do, right? So I have a couple of kind of millennials in the ranks that great ideas, fresh ideas, and so that's part of the magic behind Article as well. So this year, we were in May, and we saw a 21% increase in attendance numbers, and our economic impact going from pop-up concerts in 2012 to this year, our economic impact for the city of Durham was $1.9 million. Someone at the Huffington Post said we were like the Coachella of Jazz Fest. And I was like, ain't Coachella in the desert? But I think I know what they were talking about as far as like having Kamasi, and I mean to present Kamasi twice is crazy, because now, like, Kamasi is bigger than Article. Kamasi plays Coachella and Bonnaroo. We're still America's best kept secret. I would have to say, in this area where, we strive to be like our friends Hopscotch. And just fun fact between, Hopscotch and Article, when I was in Startup Stampede, my mission was to talk to Greg Lowenhagen and Steve Schul and see how they do it. And Greg was very, very instrumental in helping us build out what does a hopscotch style festival with different genre look like in Durham. And so we have a very close kind of friendship. It was kind of hard to see that this is his last one this year, but he killed it. Hopscotch is the model for who we want to be. Christian Scott, and we're going to see a video of him later, is one of the hottest trumpeters in the game, and he's been doing this since he was like 12. He said that if he had to choose one moment, one festival to relive, it would be Article, and that was from the first year. And we always try to bring him back every year. And then Eric told us, and if you know anything about like Eric, he can be tough on people, but he said that we're a safe house for jazz's preservation and innovation, and that really meant a whole lot to get those kind of cosigns. A little bit about our audience. I think I talked about the lesson, but was to start small and to dream big. We still lean a little bit, a little bit more female than male that comes to our festival. I think it's because over the years, I have more influence on the curating as we go along, and that's just because Al's an artist, and Al wants to continue to be an artist and educator. So most people are very highly educated. And for a quote-unquote traditional jazz festival, we slant 10 years younger. So this means that our mission is being fulfilled. Like it's for everybody, but we definitely want to capture a younger audience, because the whole thing about this is to make sure that this music lives on. Our racial background definitely reflects Durham. And so 2/3 are African American, but it's a nice mix of people that come out. And in our first year, we're starting to get more local people to come to our festival, but the first year's festival, 1/3 of the people who came to the festival were not even from North Carolina. So they were chasing the lineup. We collected certain people that are not even on the same stage in America. I think they said our festival is so kind of niche as far as with the type of jazz that we do and the alternative soul that we do, that you could really only find something like this in Australia. I think there's a soul festival in Australia that's very similar, and I didn't even know. But then when I started like looking around, I was like, oh yeah, they do have some of the same people. So, but we just book, you know, the style that we like. And I always try to remember how I felt when I was first falling in love with jazz is, you know, I'm not, you know, I can listen to Coltrane, just not all day, right? I can listen to Robert Glasper, especially, you know, his newer stuff, you know, all day long because it's easier listening, but it's not smooth. So it's one of those things. So we try to book it that way. The other thing that we do other than the festival, and this is very near and dear to Al's heart, is Start of Cool. And so Al is from DC, and when he was 13, he started learning the trumpet and steel pan was kind of his way of expressing himself and staying out of trouble. And so these camps, he would always go off to, you know, summer camps, and he went to Duke Ellington High School, which is, you know, a performing arts high school. And so he's always been an educator, and so he wanted to give back. So these are some pictures from this year's Start of Cool camp. These are kids at our recital. And so we partner right now in Durham with Global Scholars Academy, and the kids learn how to play in a bucket band together. They learn percussion. They learn how to write a song in the form of a blues. They have some vocal training, and if they want to learn, you know, how to play the trombone or trumpet or guitar, we make sure that they get private lessons. It's a 5-day camp. That's the curriculum. Another link between us and, say, Kids Notes, Al built out the jazz ensemble within Kids Notes, and so some of that same curriculum for Kids Notes is built out further as a full jazz program for this summer camp.
Turning young kids on to jazz music for the first time, we are sort of opening the door for these young kids and introducing the blues and jazz and trying to just, I guess, get them while they're young. Mainly we've been dealing with the blues because it's sort of like a rite of passage when it comes to playing jazz. You know, many well-known jazz musicians will tell you if you can't play the blues, then you can't play. We've been giving them private instruction, group instruction on bass, drums, keyboard, guitar, trumpet, saxophone, rhythm, various concepts on how to improvise and how to listen to each other in an ensemble. And hopefully these skills will transfer over into their daily lives, you know, and how they function in society.
That's some footage from the camp last year. And so we're really excited. Earlier this month, we announced that now we're ready. We've replicated it 3 times. It's the statistician in me coming out. We've replicated this 3 times. And that's it. It's supposed to be 3 times. And we're going to bring this into Raleigh next year. So I'm really excited. Grayson covered it in Raleigh Agenda. I wish I could say where it's gonna be, but somewhere out in Southeast Raleigh. So we're really excited about bringing the camp. It'll be one camp, and so hopefully we'll be building it out to be several camps at different centers. And so it's just really exciting. But on the Saturday, we always do a recital. And so what we'll be doing a little different with the one in Raleigh is it will build out into the mini festival, a little mini something around it where it'll be several bands playing, on the stage, and the kids will perform. So that's a little bit of the difference between the one in Durham and the one that's coming to Raleigh. All right, and so a little bit about Innovate Your Cool, the conference that is within our festival. We really want to make sure that the platform that we are using, we can definitely have our speakers or some of our performers come and talk about their process. And so we've had Ninth Wonder come and talk about our headliner, who was Roy Ayers, who was kind of a forerunner to the whole neo-soul movement. So he talked about that. We had Terrace Martin, who was the producer behind To Pimp a Butterfly, come and talk about working with Kendrick Lamar. Also, Rhapsody was there, and she talked about that as well. Rhapsody fans. We also linked up with Moog Music, and they helped us do a synthesizer hackathon with students. We've done that 2 years in a row. And we've also partnered with the NC Science Fair. And so I'm glad you all are here because our next step for Innovate Your Cool is we want to start doing more collaborations with people who have design ideas. And so definitely see me or Mike after this because we definitely want people with great ideas plugging into the conference for next year. And so in the future, we've announced that our festival will return. It'll be April 28th through the 30th, and we're currently booking for that. And it's gonna be good. So I'm really excited. We talked about Startup Cool. We'll do Durham in June. We'll do Raleigh in August. And then our Innovate Your Cool conference will be on the Saturday of the Art of Cool Fest, April the 29th. And so the next thing that I'm gonna show is kind of more what we do on the Innovate Your Cool side of things, where we have people come like Christian Scott. He has an app that is called the Stretch Music app. And what he does is, you know how you have sheet music and you want to learn how to play or whatever. This is an app where you can play along with his tunes, but then strip away any player on the track, right? So if you're a drummer, there's different parts in the app that has everybody's instrument, but you want to play along, you strip the drummer part out. So this is the kind of cool stuff that's happening within the Innovation Conference. So I'm going to play this video. We did this actually here in CAM, the demo with him. Thanks everyone for coming. This is one of our first Innovate Your Cool demonstrations, and I am Cicely Mitchell, and I'm the and I'm the president and co-founder of Art of Cool. We're a jazz presenting nonprofit, and we're on a mission to expand the audience for jazz. We do that through our big major festival that's coming May 6th through the 8th called Art of Cool Festival. And then we also have a summer jazz camp. We're from downtown Durham, but Cam Raleigh is one of our homes away from home. We have a residency all through the year. And so we're really excited to bring Christian Scott here tonight to demo his Stretch Music app. And he'll talk more about the app, but Christian is like an ambassador for Art of Cool. He's a good friend of one of our co-founders, Al Strong. He is doing some interesting things with this music, and I consider him an innovator and leader of the stretch music movement.
Let's say I'm a trumpet player and I want to learn to play like Clifford Brown, but I want to play in his musical environment. That's very difficult to do when Clifford Brown is playing on the record, right? So for me as a kid, I used to run up against this wall all the time, right? I'm practicing, I'm listening to Miles Davis doing all these things, but I'm just wishing that he wasn't actually there so I could play as him. And so this is something that really started as a child, just thinking about like what I could do to sort of change that for other people that were eventually going to come up and develop. We created this app, and you know, the interesting thing about it is the reception has been, I mean, overwhelming really. The app basically is an interactive media player of my record, Stretch Music, but like I said, we just started our own record label, and we have about 5 or 6 artists, some of which you actually know that have just signed to a deal. Like Corey King just signed, looks like Butcher Brown may be right around the corner, they're doing something with us, Sarah Charles, etc. And they will all have their own channels in the app. So eventually it'll be to the point where we hope to have hundreds of thousands of records in here that you can actually do this with. So Stretch Music is an interactive media player of the Stretch Music record that allows the listener or the practicer or musician to customize their listening and practicing experience. That happens in a myriad of ways, and I'm going to give you an example. So everything in red is active. Let's say you're a piano player and you want to learn just the piano part. Well, you can solo that instrument, right? So you can solo any instrument. This is applicable to any instrument in the app. So let's say we solo the drums, right? Now you can also mute any instrument. So if you're a drummer and you want to play along with us, but you don't want the drums in the way, we'll bring back the track. Now the drums are gone and you can play along with the record without the drums there, right? Okay, so now other things that it does. You can also pan from left to right depending on which ear you want which instrument in. It also comes with the charts for every instrument on every song. You see that? Right, so every instrument, every song has the charts as well. That was the score. You can also create a loop. So as an example, let's say I just want to practice a 4-bar practice. I can start the loop there, wait a bar, and now that's just going to skip back and forth and just loop that ready. Right? So we'll stop the loop. But what's coolest about it and what I like most is the tempo controlling. So I can actually slow this thing down. And it stays in the same key, right? Or I can speed it up as fast as I want to speed it up. And so all of these things are things that as a kid, this is what I wanted to do, right? So you got soloing of any instrument, you can mute any instrument, you can pan from left to right. It comes with the charts of every instrument for every song. Also, you can loop and you can slow down and speed up with tempo controlling. And this is applicable to every song on the record and will be applicable to every record that's in the Stretch Music app. So this is the first of its kind. Cool. All right. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to demo the app and play along with it. Okay?
Give it up for Cicely. So time for 1 or 2 questions? Who's got questions?
Question? Oh, sure.
Hi, thank you so much, Cicely. And I'm really interested in the, you're talking about collaborating with design ideas for the INNOVATE School Conference. Sounds amazing. Can you tell me more about what you're interested in collaborating?
Yeah, we wanted to kind of get people in a room to talk about these kind of ideas and what you may want to plug into the conference. So it would be almost like a design workshop or thinking brainstorming session. So, and my millennial colleague over there, Michael is actually over the programming for our conference. And so we definitely will be putting some messaging out, probably in the next couple of weeks on this design kind of think tank where we can talk about these kind of ideas and how we could plug them into the conference. So just follow us on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, but we will be putting some messaging out. Maybe you can help us, put that messaging out for that particular session.
Great. Do one more.
This is fabulous. So glad you're here presenting. I didn't know about this. I'm a Durham native, and I didn't know about this stuff. How do we volunteer for the camps that you talked about?
Yes, so we'll be putting a call out for that as well. And so there's a way you can go to our website, thearticleproject.com, and sign up for our email. And we send an email out every week, just like where you can find jazz, regardless of whether we're presenting it or not. And then any kind of call to actions where it's like, hey, we're taking volunteers for the festival, or we're taking volunteers for the Start a Cool camp. So if you get on our email list, then that's a great way. For volunteers, we usually put out some sort of press release around that as well, so that's one way. We also use wayfinders for our volunteers as well.
We'll take one more.
Come to the various events we had as well.
Yeah.
Because introducing yourself to people and being a face that we recognize, we'll remember, trying to get past those wonderful.
Yeah, and we're here. That's Milton. That's another one of my cooligans. So he's the best. We're here at CAM on random Wednesdays. It's not usually like the third Wednesday, but it's usually listed on CAM's website. And it's a free event, and we have a DJ mic check. And so what we do is that's a time to really kind of talk to us and interface and try to get more involved. It's raining.
Yeah.
Yeah.